Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. As many of you probably know by now, there's a new all-time record sports card sale in world history. It happened last week in a heritage auction, and I decided I wanted to run through some historical context around the all-time record sales of sports cards. Going back to 1985, the new record has been set 16 times, and I want to go through each one of them one by one, give a little bit of background on each one. The first half of this video will be very repetitive because one card just keeps seeing the record sale, but in the second half things sort of start mixing it up and get a little more interesting. So yeah, we'll sort of go through them one by one here. All right, it all starts in 1985 when there was a sale of this T206 Honus Wagner for $25,000, and this was before the days of the internet or a lot of record keeping with sales. So this is presumed to be the highest ever sports card sale up to that point. And yeah, it's heavily believed that it was. $25,000 for this T206 Honus Wagner, which was in extremely sharp condition. It was purchased by someone named Bill Mastro, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. This card is going to basically become the most storied sports card of all time. 2 years later, in 1987, the same card is sold by Mastro to a new buyer for roughly 4 times what he paid, $110,000. In 1991, the card is purchased by Wayne Gretzky and a partner, and it becomes the first card ever graded at PSA, receiving a PSA near mint 8. You can see the serial number in the upper right is 00001. First card ever graded by PSA. It was purchased by Gretzky and his partner for $451,000, basically purely as an investment. 4 years later, in 1995, Gretzky and his partner sell the card to Walmart for $500,000. Again, the new record sale at the time. So Gretzky and his partner made something like 10% return on their money. Walmart plans to use it as a prize and a contestant giveaway, which they do. Quick side note, we've now been looking at 10 years of record sales, and this exact card has held all 5 record sales in that window, and it's 20x'd in value, going from $25K to $500K, again, in just 10 years. The winner of the Walmart Contestant Promotional Prize sells the card a year later in 1996 for $641,500. The card then disappears for a few years, reappearing in 2001 in an auction, becoming the first ever 7-figure card sale, going for $1,265,000. Basically double what the previous sale was 5 years earlier. Continue with our double-up theme, the card then sells again 6 years later in 2007 for $2,350,000, again a record, and then this one was again roughly a double-up from the previous 2001 sale. What's interesting to me about the last 2 sales that occurred from 1996 to 2007 that were both double-ups, roughly double-ups, in those years the card market as a whole was definitely on the decline, or at best, flat at times. But despite that, this card doubled in value each of the last 2 sales. The card then finally finds its home in 2008 when it sells for $2,800,000, the 8th time it set the all-time record. This will be the last time, as it has not been up for sale since 2008. It stayed in possession of the same owner since then, who is the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. The story of this card has lots of interesting tidbits and factoids. In addition to once being owned by Wayne Gretzky and being the very first card ever graded at PSA, Bill Mastro, who was the original buyer back in 1985, admitted in 2007 that back then he had in fact trimmed the card, and that was something that had been speculated on by many people throughout the years. Was this card in fact trimmed? Just sort of adds to the story at this point. Certainly if this card came up for sale today, and it's unlikely that it would, but if it did, I think most people agree it would probably shatter whatever standing record existed in the moment. The $2.8 million Gretzky Wagner sale held as the all-time record for 8 years until 2016, when another T206 Wagner overtook it, this one going for $3,120,000. It's a PSA EX5 miscut. The miscut qualifier, you can see the top and bottom borders are a little bit slant cut, and the card's actually a little bit bigger than it should be. That Wagner sale held the record for 4 years until 2020, when the shocking sale on a 2009 Bowman Chrome draft pick prospect super refractor auto, Mike Trout, BGS 9 with a 10 for the auto. It is the 101, and certainly Mike Trout's best card on planet Earth. Sold for $3,936,000, and really threw a whole wrench in the whole, what card can be the top spot machine, as was obviously the first modern card to hold that distinction. You could definitely argue that of the 9 cards that have held the top spot in history at one point or another, this is the only one that has sort of proven to be a poor long-term investment until now, at least, as Trout's career has basically gone downhill since the sale of this card. A year later, a vintage card retook the throne. This 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle PSA Mint 9. The card is a pop 6 with 3 higher, meaning there are 6 copies on Earth in a PSA Mint 9, and there are 3 copies graded a PSA Gem Mint 10. This one is considered to be perhaps the nicest eye appeal copy of the 9s. It sold for $5,200,000 again in 2021. Just a few months later, another card actually tied the mantle. This 2003 Exquisite Rookie Parallel Jersey Auto LeBron James rookie. It's a BGS Mint 9 with a 10 for the auto, serial numbered out of 23 with a 3-color patch. Strong subgrades. This card also sold for $5.2 million. Again, just a couple months after the mantle, and this card and the mantle co-own the record for about 6 months. Later in 2021, a new T206 Honus Wagner overtook the top spot. This one graded an SGC VG3 with really strong image and centered pretty well. Corners are quite rounded for a 3, but you know, I'll take it. This one went for $6,606,000. That held the record for about a year until another T206 Honus Wagner, ironically graded lower, this one an SGC Good 2, overtook it, selling for $7,250,000. Another one that's centered really well and has, you know, we'll say a strong eye appeal for the grade. This record was short-lived, as just 3 weeks after the $7 million Wagner sale, another sale completely blew it out of the water. This 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle graded an SGC Mint Plus 9.5 is the highest graded copy at SGC, and comes with an interesting story. You can see on the label 1985 Rosenfind, finest known example. That's in reference to a letter that Al Rosen, who was a famous dealer in the 80s and 90s and had seen, you know, hundreds of mantles in his lifetime, or I don't know, maybe more, once called this the finest known example that he had ever seen. This card sold for $12,600,000, the first 8-figure sports card sale, breaking the record by over $5 million, and really setting sort of a new gold standard for what the potential of high-end sports cards can be. The mantle held the record for nearly 3 years until just last week when we saw the sale of this card here, a 2007 UD Exquisite Collection Dual Logo Man Auto, Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. The card is the one of one. You can see nice clean autographs. The logo men. The Jordan is actually the gold and white version from NBA's 50th anniversary season, and it's graded a PSA X Mint 6. You know, forget the price for a second. I think it's hard to argue anything other than this is a beautiful looking card. Sold for $12,932,000, surpassing the mantle by just a couple $100,000, roughly 3% higher. But it is now the new all-time record sports card sale in world history. I graphed out the 16 record-breaking sales over time, and this is what it looks like. And I found the shape of this, curve, I guess we'll call it a curve, very interesting. If you look from like 1985 to about 2020 or so, it's just a very steady upwards trend. And yeah, there's some jump ups here and there, but it's a pretty steady sort of upwards trend. But from 2020 to present, that's when things really spike, and the curve suddenly becomes this like super steep, cliff for whatever that's worth. But yeah, these are the 9 cards that have held the record or co-held the record at one point or another since 1985. A couple interesting tidbits about this list. If I didn't know this and somebody asked me, of the 9 cards that have held the all-time sales record, how many of them do you think would be PSA 10s? I would probably guess like 6 of the 9 probably, but actually the answer is 0. There's never been a PSA 10 to hold the record. There's been 4 cards that were in PSA holders. They were graded a 9, an 8, a 6, and a 5 MC, just sort of interesting. And no 10s in any other companies as well. 2 9s from Beckett, a 9.5 from SGC, and also a 3 and a 2 from SGC. So yeah, interesting tidbit there, at least from my viewpoint. Looking forward in terms of like what cards out there could potentially break the current record, there's actually quite a few. Remember, there's 3 mantles and a PSA 10. There's also a bunch of Wagners graded higher than the SGC 2, which was the last record holder for a Wagner. And in the modern side, given that this dual logo man is now the new record holder, there could be other cards sort of on par with this, 101s of the GOATs, Brady and LeBron and Jordan and Kobe, etc., from high-end brands that might make a run of it. I'm not really sure about that, but definitely there are cards out there that could claim the top spot if they were ever put up for sale. But that's it for now. Thank you everyone for watching, and congrats to the seller of this card. I don't know if it's been revealed who that was, but yeah. Enjoy your new, private jet or whatever you plan to do with the money. And remember to eat your vegetables. You want to live a long time so you can really enjoy the cash. But yeah, appreciate everyone watching as always, and see you all again next time. Thanks, everyone.